The only other thing I wanted to do is like the formal vocabulary that you'll be going through. Like we've been talking about moving, moving left, right, or up and down. Those things are called translations. You learn that in geometry. A translation just means you're moving it to the left, to the right, to the up, to the down, or some mixture thereof. But anytime you're doing a translation, is through movement. And if you remember, that was from like when you were adding or subtracting numbers. So translation is moving it. So when you do problems, you would like ask, what are the transformations? And the transformations that you would use is a translation. It would translate 5 to the left, or it would translate 3 down, something like that. That's an example. So like translates, like we'll use this example right here. This one would translate 5 to the right and 1 up, I would say. Translates 5 to the right and 1 up. That would be what you would have to write for something like this. Translates 5 to the right and 1 up. Reflection, that was what happens when it flipped upside down, if it is flipping. What we use for these ones, if you see, there's no real point to flipping these things left and right because they're the same, but we do flip them up and down. And the way they would say that is you would say it's flipped across the x-axis. That is the very formal way of saying it. Because the x-axis, if you remember, is this axis right here. So you're basically taking it and flipping it this way, across the x-axis, and that is flipping it up and down. And then stretch shrink, that is when you have the number in front. They use the letter A, like if you have A, absolute value of x. This A right here is called a dilation or a compression, but we are using stretch and shrink in this video. And basically, if A is more than 1, it is a stretch, because it is stretching vertically, it's getting taller. If A is less than 1, it is a shrink. Now, I should mention it's technically not true. In real jargon, you would write the absolute value of A is more than 1, or the absolute value of A is less than 1. But really, this is talking about fractions. That's what I'm trying to talk about. That's what it's talking about. If A is more than 1, so like 7 is more than 1. If I had 5/3, that is more than 1. These would create a stretch. It does not matter if they were positive or negative. It is still more than 1. Simply because, formally it is supposed to be the absolute value, and the absolute value of this would be more than 1. Less than 1, that would be fractions like 1/3, that is less than 1. Or 4/5, that is also less than 1. It does not matter whether it's positive or negative, any of these things. It's just what I'm talking about is fractions. If the fraction is less than 1, it's going to be like that. So the final thing I'm going to end off with is if you are asked to physically do that. Here is an example. It is translated some units, and some units. And it's just very big that I am doing this. Basically, the way I do this is I would say, well, where would this vertex be? It would be at -2, -3. And in order to plot -2, -3, I would have to go -2, -3. As you can see, I'm not being very specific because all I have to say is that it is translated 2 units to the left and is translated 3 units down. That's what it's asking for. 2 units to the left, 3 units down because of that, right? 2 units to the left, 3 units down. 2 units left, 3 units down. This one right here, if I was to just do a quick sketch, this would be at 4, 0. So I would go 4, 0 and it'd be right there. The negative sign means it's upside down. This picture is not mandatory for the question because it's just asking for in words. But it gives me an idea that it is going to the right and it is flipped. Sometimes that's good enough, but if we're going for the formal jargon, I would say it translates 4 to the right. And I would say it is flipped across the x-axis. This one would translate up 1. There's nothing else happening. You only need to mention it if it actually is happening. So I don't have to say it translates down 0 or it does not flip across the x-axis or anything like that. Only talk about what is necessary. Like this one would be -8, 5, which means this would go left and this would go up. So I would talk about that. I would say it translates left, it translates up. I would say, in fact, it reflects across the x-axis or flips across the x-axis, whichever one they need to talk about. Here, I don't need to talk about reflecting because it doesn't reflecting. I should talk about it moving 2 to the right. I should talk about it moving down 10 using words. And this right here, I would have to say that it has a shrink. This has a vertical shrink. And I would say it translates 2 to the right, because that's positive, and 10 down. And there you go. Go ahead, see if you can figure this one out. I'll let you guys try it, and then we'll come back and tell you the answer. Press the pause button. You know you want to. That's right. There you go. All right, let's see you got it. This one, since this is 0, 7, that means it does not move left and right, which means I only have to talk about translating up 7. It is going to reflect across or flip across the x-axis, not the y-axis. Please do not put a y-axis. It is the x-axis. Sometimes things are multiple choice. They'll try to trick you like that. Just flipping across the x-axis up and down. And finally, this 2 means it'll have a vertical stretch. And that is because I'm looking at the 2, and the 2 is more than 1. The negative sign says that it reflects. The 2 says that it's a stretch. So that's the way I like to think about it. The 2 is bigger than 1, so it's a stretch. Up here with the 5, 1/5. The 1/5 is less than 1, so it was a shrink, and so on. That's all I got there. The only other thing I have, if you want to try it, is some practice problems. I made these up. They're just kind of a mix. Some of them might be even the same ones from before. But if you want to try these, you can. I'm just going to kind of hold it in place for each one. So if you want to copy those problems down and try them. Here you go. These are a couple. And then there's some more down here if you want to give those a shot. Okay, hope this has been useful to you. Hope you enjoyed it. I know I did. So you have a great day and good luck. Bye.